It's 2 o'clock, so I'll call to order the commission meeting for Thursday, August 18th, 2022. If everybody please stand, I'll lead us in invocation, and I've asked Commissioner Strickland to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're just thankful for this day. And Father, just grant us wisdom during this meeting. Help us to make the right decisions for the customers of Glynn County. And Father, we just thank you for each and every customer that we have. Help us be good stewards of the revenue that we receive from those customers. And help us to understand their needs and the needs of this county as a whole in providing safe water and sewage treatment. Thank you for the opportunities we have to serve others. Help us to glorify you in everything we say and do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no public comment period.
No, sir.
Okay, what we get to do right now is make a presentation. Employee recognition. This is for Hugman Vo. He has been with us. He moved here about over 3 years ago.
In December.
We'll call him Jason. That's his nickname. He's married to 3 boys, 7, 4, and 5. He worked for the BGJWSC Planning and Construction Division. Wife is husband.
Yes, he works at SIPA.
What she do?
She's a pathologist at SIPA.
He lives in St. Simon, so he can do all the inspection when he finishes.
That's right, that's right.
He's got a bachelor's in civil engineering from the University of North Florida. He's got a PE license from Georgia and Tennessee, Texas. And he's already earned his wastewater collection license. He's also attended the GAWP Leadership Academy and has level 1 and 2 certifications. We're very fortunate to have Jason working with us. I think we've been very pleased with his work to date, haven't we? I know he's a great photographer. He's taking my picture. But anyway, pleased to present this certificate. Like I said, he's already passed his wastewater certificate. This is from the state of Georgia. Water examiners for certification of water and wastewater treatment plant operators. Laboratory analyst certifies that Hugman Vo, having given satisfactory evidence of the necessary qualifications as required by the laws of the state of Georgia, has been duly certified as a water distribution operator for the state of Georgia. Dated 18th day of August 2022. Congratulations. We always look forward to presenting these, and it's really great when somebody comes to work for us has a passion for Jason has to probably get 2 certificates, but he really didn't need to get this job. He really likes it.
Thank you, sir.
Todd, you want to say something?
Oh, sure. Just want to say, Jason's got one of those enthusiasms that's contagious. And as you said, he's very good addition to planning, construction, also organization as a whole. But Jason, pursuing these certificates and licenses like this, he's just honored not only the customers, the trust they put in us, but also his colleagues here in the board. So, glad I'm on board.
Excellent, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
That's always the best part of any of our meetings when we get to give certificates out like that. We had 2 committee meetings yesterday. I'll give an update on the facilities committee. It was a pretty good meeting. We had a lot of things that we had to approve. We're expanding pump station 4044, and we need to expand the property to do this. So we had to enter into a property acquisition with Prime South Bank, and that was accepted by the committee, recommended to be presented to the full commission today. And then the Glynn County Animal Control Facility lease that we presently have with the county's requested us to amend that lease to allow the building that's out there to be used for training for the Sheriff's Department. So we have that amendment to that lease that we need to adopt today, and the Facilities Committee did approve that yesterday. We had 2 dedications for infrastructure and easement dedications. One is a small water infrastructure extension for Lanes and Games Bowling Alley, and then another one is on Hawkins Island Drive, which is a sewer easement, just a small sewer easement. Those are generally presented to the Facility Committee to review and go over any concerns we have as it relates to whether they meet our conditions or not, and both of those do. So we recommend that those be accepted by the full commission today. We also finally got the a purchase for the FEMA-funded generators. I think there's 12 generators?
13.
13 generators that we're getting that are being funded 80% of the cost by FEMA and 20% by us. We've been trying to get bids on these since about 2 years ago. So we do have a price for those. It's been approved by both the Finance Committee and the Facilities Committee. The price is a little bit higher. It's like $2.3 million, I think, but for those 13 generators. And ironically, some of the delivery on those are what, 2 years?
March of '24 is some of the delivery
I mean,
dates.
that's how bad it is as far as the supply chain. Fortunately, we do have some generators that are on the last legs that will suffice in that case. But anyway, we'll present that in a few minutes. And then we had a contract award for on-call boring services. We have to sometimes bore underneath roads for water and sewer services. And it takes a lot of work away from, it takes a lot of time for our staff to get set up to do those. So our director recommended that we put out for contract award an on-call boring services. It's a 6-month contract to see how it works out, and it's been approved by the Facilities Committee to award it to the lowest bidder for this 6-month period. At the end of the 6-month period, we'll see how it works, and it does have an extension in that contract also if it's approved today. We have an Academy Creek rehab change order. That project is probably, I'd say, 95% finished now. And one thing that was not in the original contract is to pave all of the pavement within that site. So we have a price, and I think it's about $400,000 to pave and put base down as necessary for the repaving all of the Academy Creek plant. And then there's another, a small, I think it's an instrumentation change on the operation of the piece of equipment that the sludge is delivered to from other plants, so then it can go into our dryer. And that's just a small change there. I would like to encourage any commissioners, if you want to, Andrew or somebody would be glad to give you a tour of that plant to show you all the work that's been going on anytime. So just reach out to him and you can go see what we spent in excess of $10 million on. And then finally, the pump station 4110, that's the pump station that's up Harry Driggers, up at the end of Harry Driggers, close to the canal, and all of the water, that's the uppermost pump station that really pumps everything back down to the Academy Creek plant through all of the improvements we did on the North Mainland SPLOST project, which includes rehabbing sewers, upgrading 2 pump stations, and installing a 16, 18-inch force mains all the way down from the end of Harry Driggers up there where that pump station is. Those pumps, just in the 5 years they've been there, are getting worn out. They've had to replace them. There's a lot of rags coming into those pumps. So the staff is recommending we go for a different type of pump, where it's a above grade pump, so it'll be easier to service and handle the rags and everything. And and it will also save us having to replace the VFDs, which if we went with the submersible pumps like they were, we'd have to go with replacing the VFDs. So that was a good savings that the staff came up with on that. And then we had the discussion on the, of course, the water production report and then also the water pollution control plant. And I'm pleased to say that all 3 wastewater plants were in permit this month. The Academy, and this is even though we had a lot of rain. Some of the plants we had an awful lot of rain. The Academy Creek plant is operating at 55% of its capacity. The Dunbar Creek is operating at 92% of its capacity. And the Southport plant's operating at 26% capacity. On the capital project report, we did discuss the Dunbar Creek project. We do have a contractor that we've employed right now to upgrade that plant. They've already painted one of the aeration basins. They're in the process of installing pretty soon the equipment that we pre-purchased. So that project is pretty much on schedule. Once that's completed, it'll give us additional capacity at that plant to meet the future needs on St. Simon's Island. We saw some pretty good photos, and we appreciate what staff does on giving us those. And if you ever want to come to a facilities meeting, we'd love to have you some of those. And if you just want to come in and hear the discussion portion, looking at those photos, pretty nice sometimes. Sometimes we got some pretty stuff. Sometimes it's kind of ugly, but sometimes it's pretty. That completes my report, and I'll ask Commissioner Duncan to give a report on the Finance Committee, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to call attention to a couple of things. One is our sales for the month is about $200,000 over budget, while this time of the year our sales are higher than other times of the month simply because of visitation in our community, and irrigation sales is higher than an average month. But I was reading in an article today about our tourism, and the bed occupancy is, if I remember the number right, it was about 13% over this time last year. And our sales are reflective of that. We're about 10% over last year's year-to-date sales, just in sewer and treated water services. The other thing is the other revenue, which is essentially renting the tower space for cellular services, up about $50,000 over what it was a year ago for the month also. So from a sales standpoint, it's a pretty good job, team. It's a good thing. So those are the highlights I wanted to offer, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into the approval section of the agenda. First item is minutes from the July 21st, 2022 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is the banking signature card and authorization changes. Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I present the item on the agenda, I'd like to celebrate the reason that the item is even on the agenda. You may recall that we have been searching for a director of finance, and I say we've been searching nationwide, and we found the gentleman right in our own backyard, Mr. David Owens from here in the Glynn County area. And I should add CPA to the end of that. Mr. David M. Owens, CPA, is now our new director of finance. And we certainly extend a very warm welcome to him. We're very excited to have him. He said a few words for us in our committee meetings yesterday. But Mr. Owens, would you care to share with the remainder of the board members that you weren't able to visit with yesterday?
Like LaDonna said, I am actually from this area, born and raised here. My family's actually been in coastal Georgia for over 150 years, about 120 years on the same street just off Highway 17. So definitely have some deep roots. Went to school at the University of Georgia for my bachelor's and Georgia State for my master's. Got my CPA license back in '07. used to work in corporate America. I was with GP for the last 8.5 years doing various roles with them. Started as a senior financial analyst. Was a plant controller at their Sterling lumber mill. And then they brought me back to the Brunswick mill to be a manager of analysis, and ended up doing forecasting, budgeting, planning, tracking, reporting for maintenance, mis-ops, and capital costs for 3 mills in the southeast area. And now I'm here.
Well, we welcome you.
Welcome
We're
aboard.
glad you're here.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm gonna say now, LaDonna can get back to her real job of being the assistant director.
And I'm sure Mr. Burrows will be happy to hear that as well. I know he's been carrying quite a load for a while.
So can you
All right.
proceed on?
I beg your pardon?
Go ahead and proceed on.
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely. So the purpose of this agenda item is to add Mr. Owens to our signatory cards for the bank account and for the investment accounts. Our policies do require 2 signatures on any banking transaction over $5,000, and then for our investment transactions, we internally have made the policy of having a minimum of 2 signatories on those transactions. So we would ask today that you grant the authority to the chairman and vice chairman to sign the appropriate documents for that, and then the list there of signatories. That would be the chairman, the vice chairman, Mr. Burrows is the executive director, me as the deputy executive director, and Mr. Owens is the director of finance.
Can I have a motion?
Chairman, I make the motion that the full commission approve that the chairman, the vice chairman of JWSC continue to be authorized to execute the necessary banking resolution and signature cards with Truist Bank, and that the chairman, vice chairman, executive director, deputy executive director, and director of finance be authorized signatories on the Truist Bank accounts and Synovus investment accounts of the JWSC.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is annual flood insurance renewal. Ms. Roberts?
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, you may recall at the March board meeting, we brought to you the property and liability insurance renewals. We mentioned at that particular time that the flood insurance renewal would come later in the year. It's now time for that. The date was actually July 31st. It just fell in between those 2 meetings, the time that we got those quotes. We are going back with the same insurer that we had before, Lloyd's of London. After a conversation with other brokers and other carriers, we did end up with the same coverage, the same insurer. Price slightly higher, $1,607 increase, which is a little over 5%. Wanted to make a clarification on some language that's used there. You may see where it says excess flood renewal. We aren't being excessive with our expenditures. Instead, what happens is the National Flood Insurance Program provides coverage up to $500,000, but in order to get to the coverage level that we wanted, just over $4 million, there was an additional $3.5 million that we needed to purchase as well. So that's why we have the 2 line items there, and as far as the addresses listed, those are the addresses for this physical building and then our annex building, which is on the other side of the property that Glynn County is currently leasing from us.
Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the board approve flood insurance renewal rate is listed in the attached memo provided by staff.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next item is Pump Station 4044 property acquisition. This is, the Pump Station 4044 needs to be upgraded, and it's located on Altama Avenue, adjacent to Prime South Bank. And we're going to be acquiring some property, an easement from them and property from them for this pump station. We had an appraisal done on the property, and the appraised value is $4,725. It's 0.029 acres, and that's the price that Prime South Bank has said that they would be willing to sell that property to us. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Mr. Dominic?
I think you covered it.
Okay.
What we do on the property, the old station?
The existing station will be demoed. The wet well will actually return into a receiving manhole. All the above ground stuff will be demoed. There'll still be the concrete pad and a wet well as a manhole, and that'll be used to gravity into the new station.
We'll still maintain it.
Yes, it's still, well, we don't own it, it's a sewer easement, but yes, we'll still maintain it.
And I think it's important to note that the new area we're using will be fenced and will be much less obvious for when you are in that intersection.
Fence less obvious, and we have agreed to maintain a certain level of landscaping around that for you make sure the bank continues to be pleased with us as neighbors.
I think it's kind of a minor miracle that sitting where it is now, that there wasn't some sort of traffic accident that did some damage to it, because it's really right there. So this will be a good improvement, I'd say.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the purchase of Prime South parcel and authorize the chairman to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the purchase.
Second. Motion is second. Are there any other questions?
What's the time frame for transferring the property? Approximately?
As soon as we get deed, and it's, Prime South has it, they just hadn't brought it to them yet.
All right. Thank you.
We'll have it before the bids get back on the project, for sure.
Okay.
There's a motion and second. All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the Glynn County Animal Control Facility Lease IGA amendment. This is the existing amendment to the existing lease, as I mentioned earlier, that we have with the county. Basically, we're using the uncovered area as a laydown place for meters, meter replacement program. And the county was nice enough to allow us to use that to help us with the meter replacement program. They now need to use the building for, I think the sheriff needs it for training purposes, so they want to amend the amendment, amend the lease. Charlie, you got anything else on that?
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain from making a vote on this due to the fact I'm approved by the county.
Okay.
I'll
Have a
offer the
motion?
motion. I'll hereby move the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission Facilities Committee,
Oops.
that was from yesterday. The commission approved intergovernmental lease agreement with Glynn County for the lease of the former animal control facility and authorize the chairman to execute the same.
I'll second the motion.
Motion second. Is there any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Oh, 6 to nothing.
6 to
one
nothing.
abstention.
One abstain, yes.
Yeah.
Next item is infrastructure and easement dedications. Mr. Klein?
Okay, Commissioners, good afternoon. These two items are as noted. First item, number one, is dedication of water infrastructure. This is infrastructure put in the ground to support a commercial development on US 341 called Lanes and Games. And the second item is simply the dedication of an easement on Hawkins Island around some existing gravity sewer that we already own and maintain as a Joint Water and Sewer Commission. Those are the two items. I'm happy to answer any questions. There's maps, exhibits, and also record drawings as appropriate attachments.
Can I have a motion?
I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve these projects with associated dedication and easement.
I'll second the
Motion is second. Are there any questions?
On the second item, so this sewer line appears to only serve one lot, but it's still public sewer?
When it was installed,
When it was installed, it was multiple lots. Solves both of these lots here. So it was installed, now the same person owns them, and it is one owner, but when it was installed, it was dedicated as
But
public.
it was intended originally to be public infrastructure.
yes.
To see a balance of, I mean, if it's on private property and it's only serving one private resident, and there's no opportunity for anybody else to tie into, why is it really public infrastructure? Why isn't it, what's the difference between that and any other private line in the county? But if it was installed by us, as us, and it was, that's a little different. I just wanna make sure we're not
Right.
taking over somebody's private asset for the personal benefit of them.
No, sir. So this one's already been public. The easement just cleans up the fact that we didn't previously have an easement over the line.
Okay.
It was actually installed by the contractor that developed the subdivision.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, well, that was two.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Next item is equipment purchase, FEMA funded generators. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. We have been awarded a hazard mitigation grant through the FEMA program and GEMA program for that. Couple of items, we have purchased some automatic transfer switches with the previous grant. This is the actual purchase of 13 generators, 8 fixed generators, and 5 portable generators. The 8 fixed generators, 5 will be at existing water production facilities, and 3 will be located to fully power the Academy Creek plant. Currently, only 2 generators are located at Academy Creek, but there are portions of the solids handling that is not currently on generator, so this generator will allow that to be on backup power in the event of an outage, and also is sized appropriately for the upcoming UV installation that we have been awarded through ARPA. We have not been awarded through FEMA an actual approved cost for this project equal to the bids. We've only been awarded $1.35 million, of which our share is $203,000. The low bid from Cummings is $1.89 million. Talking with GEMA and FEMA, we have verbal assurances that they will give us the budget adjustment to do this, but because all the projects they're bidding out are coming in higher, they want to get it bid out before they start adjusting budgets. So I do want to say there's $500,000 here. We currently do not have awarded from FEMA or GEMA that's included in this project, and all we have is verbal assurances that will be awarded once we go to them with this request.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't do it before that?
Because they don't want to have to do it multiple times.
Market's fluid.
If we wait and somebody decides they got to change their price because the bid got delayed 30 or 45 days, they don't want to have to change it multiple times. It is a risk on our part, but we feel confident that GEMA is going to give us some money.
And it was awarded based on the estimate at that time?
Yes.
And now it's gone up, but FEMA, they do these all over the state, GEMA and FEMA. And like you said, it's a hazard mitigation. And if something happened and they changed their policy for some reason, which I can't even imagine it happening, it's still a good deal for us to have the generator.
Yeah,
We gotta
so
have the generator.
If we buy 13 generators and we end up on the hook for $800,000 instead of $300,000, it's still a good purchase price to get 13 generators.
I mean, we were fortunate to even qualify for them.
Right.
If it had been for our location and staff making the application. So it's still a good deal, but hopefully it's gonna be, like I say, just 20%
Right.
our money and 80%
State
federal
and federal.
government's money, which is our money too. But anyway,
The installation costs included in these?
No, this is just the purchase. The installation cost, because of the lead times of at least a year up to 80 weeks, we'll bid the installation out at a later date to get people a better chance to actually price it appropriately. Not at this time. The 1.3 that was originally estimated was supposed to include installation. Obviously, that did not occur.
I'll offer the motion. I'll move the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the purchase of 13 generators with Cummings, Inc. in the amount of $1,893,826.19.
Second. The motion and second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is the contract award on-call boring services. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. As you mentioned in your update, we have went out for a bid to get people to install water lines trenchlessly when necessary for us, and particularly in congested areas where we have old galvanized lines, this is going to be advantageous. We went out for 4 sizes of lines that are most common in our system. These prices that you see here, the low bid was DNC Directional Boring, who we have worked with before. These prices do not include the cost of materials. We will be providing materials to the contractor at that time. And the contract is for 6 months, and that'll allow us to see how this contract is going to work and to see how their responsiveness is going to be, and then we can negotiate an extension if necessary and if preferable by both parties at that time. This will essentially be used for the galvanized project and some of the other water line replacement projects. So if approved today, we hope to be replacing large sections of galvanized theoretically during the month of September. Saves us from having to repave a lot of stuff too.
Can I have a motion?
I make a motion that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission award contract to DNC Direct Warren LLC as listed in attached bid.
Second.
Motion is second. Are there any questions?
In round numbers, what's our annual kind of boring cost?
The galvanized project is budgeted at $250,000 a year. So not all of that will go for boring, but the bulk of that will be for boring.
Have we ever, I mean, it's just 6 months, so it doesn't make this, they're not mutually exclusive, but have we ever explored to buy on board machine?
We have a small boring rig, but ours will do about 50 feet at a time. The cost to maintain one of the larger machines, no more than we would be able to keep it going, is not being conducive. We did have staff look at that.
And you'd mentioned yesterday that this is a local company,
Yeah, they're out of Townsend, so.
so
Right up the road.
it's easy for them to get ready and get to work. That's
Absolutely.
important.
So we, as part of the contract, they had to respond within 3 weeks. From Townsend, it shouldn't be too difficult to get here within 3 weeks.
Any
How many feet are we talking about in,
2 to 3 miles a year would be what we would be doing with this.
okay,
There's approximately 50 miles of galvanized pipe out there
right,
on estimate, so we got a process to go through, but
okay.
if we get 2 or 3 miles a year, it slowly starts dwindling away.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is the Academy Creek Water Pollution Control Plant rehab, change order number 2, Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. This is the second change order for the Academy Creek project, and this is essentially 2 change orders in one. A very small amount of money is in here to modify the influent guide rails at the influent wet well for odor control cover installation, and for the installation of a sump pump control panel and audible alarm at the new filter structure. The bulk of this has to do with repaving the facility. Repaving everything inside the plant costs $398,204, and we've also added asked the contractor to install conduits for future usage before we pave it, so we don't cut the fresh pavement, so we can pull the electrical feeders for the new UV system and the RAS pump improvements we've got budgeted and are going to do this year. So to get this done, they've asked for an additional 92 days for both paving and finalizing the remaining punch list items on the contract. So the total requested change order amount, which is funded by GFA, is $427,131. And again, of that, over $400,000 of this is paving and putting conduits in place prior to paving.
Can I have a motion?
I'll offer the motion. I'll move the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve change order number 1 for the Academy Creek WPCF rehab project in the amount of $427,131 and approve a time extension of 92 days for Ruby Collins, Inc. to complete the project.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Are there any questions?
So the bulk of this is paving,
Yes, $400,000 of that is paving.
does it, I mean, is it the best use to have the general contractor manage that? I mean, would we not be better off just doing our own bid for local paving contractors to do the paving and have that as a separate contract does?
To be honest, right now, trying to get anybody to bid paving is very difficult, and they had an existing relationship with a paving subcontractor.
We can't have any issue getting paving.
Well, you need to send me your contacts.
I can do it.
There's 2 prime pavers in the in the neighborhood. There are some very small ones, and
I've done a paving project before.
the small ones they're all at premium, and the 2 primes are awful to have to deal with on timing and response and their cost. Right now, just to give you an example of the challenges on the supply chain, I used to buy gravel from each of the primes, and they won't sell you any now because of the supply chain is so tight for them just to maintain the materials for their own projects. So
Nonetheless, in my opinion, you know, when you're, I mean, you got something that's really kind of a, I mean, if it's a change order to the actual plant construction, that's a change order.
Right.
To me, this is a totally separate, I won't say wish list, because it definitely needs to be done, I'm thinking paving out there. It's a totally separate animal. I mean, it just seems like maybe we could do direct with us and not pay a general contractor to oversee that work and likely save some money, or at least explore it and see if it makes sense to do so. I hear you, Commissioner, I haven't had any issue getting people to respond to paving projects. Last one we did, we got 4 or 5 bids.
And I think this also locks in a timeline with the contractors, so, and that's one of the things that I think Mr. Burrows is quite interested in is getting the project wrapped up. And this sets the 92
Like
days.
the pipe and all, you can come back and pave 2 days, 2 years, whenever.
Yep.
You get the pipe done ahead of time. For me, it's just not typical, what I'll typically see is a change order. You know, I mean, it's just apples and oranges as far as the actual plant construction goes. One's a wastewater thing, one's just paving.
Sure.
I don't see where it needs to be under the same general contractor. And it might not save anything. I mean, they might come back and say it's twice as much. If that's the case, we go with the original. But, you save 10%, $400,000.
Well, another benefit to this though too is the contractor's out there, and we have inspection out there, but the contractor's working, he knows the staff and everything else, and this is a lot of paving around a lot of structures, and a lot of areas that's gonna have to have a lot of coordination. If we had another contractor come in there, there's gonna take a lot more of somebody's time to supervise that person and make sure they do it properly and
How
everything,
much
so.
longer do we have on the original contract?
The original contract technically expired July
I mean,
31st.
how much longer for the scope that we currently got going on?
Depending on vendor timing, 30 to 45 days.
So we got 45 days of project left.
Mhm.
Put the pipes in under the ground and then come back and pay somebody to pave at a later date.
But you'd still have to get in line with a different asphalt paving, and I'm with Bob, we can't get asphalt for big projects. We're on a wait list now for 2 projects that are coming. There's just not the aggregate and the supply chain just isn't there. So,
Not just for paving, but who knew that rock was going to be an issue to try to get?
Can't imagine.
Well, it's, in the year's time, it's gone from $42 a ton to $100 a ton.
Yes.
Yeah, my only point is that we don't know, we don't ask.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is pump station 4110 pumps purchase. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, 4110 is on Harry Driggers Boulevard, adjacent to the kayak launch and skate park at the Brunswick-Glynn Recreational Complex. It receives the flow from the Harry Driggers area, and everything along Highway 99 that's collected to sewer pumps up across the interstate and then back down to pump station 4110. We have seen tremendous ragging issues over the past several months, and one of the pumps had so many rags in it actually snapped the shaft. The other pump was pulled for inspection, and based off the cost to rehab it, it appears it'd be better to go ahead and buy something different. Currently, the station's been on bypass for a couple of months while we were soliciting quotes. So you see 5 quotes there. 4 of them have asterisks beside them because all 4 of those are over 100 horsepower and would require electrical improvements for VFDs to be able to function. Also, the shortest lead time is the Gorman-Rupp pump. Gorman-Rupp is a suction lift pump that is actually maintained above ground and actually pulls water from below the ground, and all the valves and piping will be installed above ground and tied into the existing force main. This will allow us not to have to increase the valve pit. The current valve pit is too small to install the upsized valves that will be included with this project, and so that was about a $50,000 savings, not have to install a new valve pit. Staff has went over this, and actually I typically prefer submersibles to suction lift pumps, but they did a very good job making their case, and it seems like the perfect fit for what we're doing here. So my recommendation moving forward with the Gorman-Rupp purchase.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the purchase of 2 new pumps for Pump Station 4110 from Templeton and Associates in the amount of $129,500.
This will be coming out of the system pumping and maintenance operating budget as well.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any questions?
Are we using our own bypass equipment there?
Yes, we have a second bypass pump rented right now, but we have a permanent bypass pump there, so we got a second one there. Because it's on bypass, we don't want one pump being the potential failure. So there's a rented pump sitting there as well, but our is the prime.
Right. And the lead time, of course, is much shorter on the receipt.
Couple months
fees.
less at a minimum to get the pump.
Okay.
And like Andrew said, on the more critical pump stations, we do have a permanent standby pump there just in case, and that's.
Right.
that's
But it's
relates
more
to this
noise
pump
and
station.
with the bypass going.
More noise and diesel.
And diesel, right, yeah, yeah.
And this will good off bypass.
Once these are installed, it will be off bypass. We'll still have the permanent pump there. We'll get the rented one back, and we'll be back on electric power instead of diesel.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is financing resolution, VACCon trucks for lease purchase. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. As part of the budgeting process this year, we discussed purchasing and financing the purchase of 4 VACCon trucks. We went out to the supplier, got quotes from them to finance it through them. We also got quotes from 2 other agencies. The lowest cost agency is Truist Financial, who's actually our banking partner, at 2.79% for 5 years. So this would be to finance the purchase of 4 VACCons. Quite a bit of discussion yesterday about timing of these purchases and the value of the existing vehicles. Did some analysis last night. It appears the break-even point is actually probably 1 year later than today, if you assume the maintenance cost doesn't increase within the next year and the truck cost doesn't increase within the next year. So we may be theoretically doing this 1 year early, but I would rather be 1 year early than 1 year late on getting them replaced.
Andrew, can you tell us what VACCon trucks do?
VACCon trucks, both jet sewer, so they have a jetter head on them that pumps water to clean sewer lines, and it also has a vacuum that pulls all the material that it jets out back into the tank of the truck, and then we take that material and dispose of it properly. So it actually helps us clean lines. If you've been to our annual luncheon, Christmas luncheons, or to the town halls, we clean about 70 miles of pipe a year, so these things are going nonstop.
And we have 1 operator for each truck.
We have 1 operator and 1 helper on every truck. That's correct.
Do we ever help somebody on private property?
Occasionally, we do help on private property, and we bill for that, and we also have been requested to assist both the City of Darien and Jekyll Island Authority with issues with our VACCons.
Okay.
I'll make the motion. I'll move that the JWSC Commission approve the financing resolution in the amount of $1,458,992 on a 5-year term rate with Truist Financial Corporation as listed in the attached provided by staff.
I'll second Commissioner Hunt.
Motion is second. Any questions?
I think the important thing to note is we're getting a very good trade-in value on these, on our current equipment, $125,000 each.
Yes.
So it really knocks the price down from the $500,000 to, so it is a good deal, I think. I guess it's the truck that's worth it, not the chassis and the truck, not all the other equipment, so. But, so I think this is a good move in critical equipment, so I'm glad we're doing this.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Executive Director's update, Mr. Burris.
Nothing major today. Just thank y'all for all the participation in yesterday's meeting, helping us make more well-thought-out decisions.
Any commissioners have any comments?
I have one comment. I just wanted to note that the new website is up and running, and it's very modern looking, and it's a big plus, I think. You'll see it if you go home, pop on there. Easier to navigate around, and I appreciate all the effort of the staff that did that. And I think Mr. Burrows managed to get us quite an attractive local company that did a lot of the work and did a really fine job on it at a very reasonable price.
All the credit for that goes to Mr. Sellers. He managed that. Me doing websites would be a nightmare. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Sellers. Yeah.
Any other comments? I have one. Andrew, can you tell us about the SLUF funds? How much we got from them on the first go-round, and now what we're submitting on the next go-round?
Yes, sir. Okay, so the State Fiscal Recovery Funds was funded through one of the COVID acts. I believe it was the ARPA Act, but there was a couple of them. I can't remember which one it was. It's a grant process. We applied for significant amounts of money, and we're fortunate to be awarded a $1.9 million grant for the installation of UV disinfection equipment at Academy Creek. We are currently in the process of reapplying for some things we did not apply for, did not receive funding for last time, and also some new options. Looking at some of the guidance, they may be focusing on more water supply related issues on this time. So we are looking at potentially doing some well improvements and exit 29 and some elevated storage tank improvements through those projects, and working potentially on a joint project with the Georgia Ports Authority down here at the East River Terminal, where they store all the wood pellets at, putting a potential elevated storage tank up there if the funding is awarded, obviously. So trying to find community partners kind of helps you with the grant process if multiple people are involved.
And I understand those awards will be made by the end of October.
That is correct, and that is all coming through the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget. So same people that scored it last time.
Well, I just want to commend the staff. Jason, you have some good people to work for, to mentor you and everything, and I think Todd and Andrew do a good job kind of keeping us ahead of the game. And I just want us to encourage them, let's proceed and keep getting these projects out for bid, because we still have a lot of needs in this system. But I appreciate everything you do. We don't need an executive session, so we'll just adjourn the meeting. Thank you.